Chapter 16, The Gatherer of One's Family Line. A person who has established his family homestead, or kin's domain, can gather together within it the souls of the people from his family line, and they will be grateful to him for this great deed. Like guardian angels, they will protect and guard the kin's domain and the person who created it. Nothing in the universe disappears without a trace. It only passes from one state into another. When a person dies and his mortal body is given over to the land, then the trees and grass and flowers grow up out of it. It passes from one state into another. But then into what state does the main energetic complex, the human soul, pass? At first, it lingers, hovering at the place where the person's body is located. And in some religions, people understand this and do not immediately commit the person's body to the earth. And when the person's body does join into an embrace with the earth, when the person is buried in a cemetery, then the soul hovers above the spot where the body has been buried. The relatives spend some period of time near the grave. The soul, deprived of its body, and so of hearing and sight, cannot see or hear, but it can feel when people are speaking of it or thinking of it. If they are saying good things, the soul feels good, but if they are saying bad things, the soul feels bad. Then people leave the cemetery. For a certain period of time, the soul remains above the mound of earth where the body is buried, but it no longer feels anything, only emptiness. Modern people, caught up in the everyday bustle of life, quickly forget their deceased relatives. In modern people's apartments, often nothing at all serves as a reminder of their deceased relatives. After a year, or 5 or 10, basically no one remembers them anymore, and the souls of the deceased end up in a complete void. And we are speaking here about the recently deceased, but there are also those relatives who lived 100 or 1,000 or 1,000,000 years ago, and they all find themselves in complete oblivion. A person who creates a kin's domain can gather together his entire family line. To do this, he needs to call to mind his relative and imagine him or her, and then the soul will give a little start. It will sense it is being thought of, and no matter in which corner of the universe it might be located, it will shoot off along this thought ray to the person from which it is emanating. A person is not able to remember all his relatives and continually think about them and recall them, but he can plant a small grove of trees, preferably family trees. Footnote, the original Russian phrase, Rada Vyaya di Revya, contains the root rot, relating to family line. Thus, I have rendered this phrase as family trees to establish the link with the phrase kin's domain, or family homestead. But he can plant a small grove of trees, preferably family trees, that live a long time. These include oaks and cedars. As he plants them, he should definitely contribute his own family thought, saying to himself, I am planting this grove or alley in memory of the members of my family line. I am creating a family homestead, a kin's domain, and may all the members of my family line who have lived in the past and who will live in the future gather together on it. As he plants each individual tree, it's essential that he recall the name of one or another relative who has recently passed, and to imagine each of them and say a kind word about them. A person isn't able to recall each of his family members every minute and every hour, but the trees, which have received this information, will preserve it within themselves every moment. The souls of the relatives of your family line will sense this, and they will live in your homestead, in the trees, in the blades of grass, and the flowers. The rays emanating from the trees are much weaker than those coming from people, but they are more constant. The souls will sense this, and at first the soul of the closest relative you recalled will come to this spot, and after it comes, others will also gradually be drawn to this spot too. In 9 years there will grow up a grove of trees that were planted by the person, and these will be extraordinary trees. They will possess colossal beneficial energy. No one will be able to sense this energy's benefits, no one except the gatherer of the family line himself and his close relatives. Imagine, Vladimir, what an extraordinary and kind thing it is that a man will accomplish. He, like unto the Creator, will gather together anew his family line that has scattered throughout time. But Anastasia, you said that the souls are an energetic complex, and then when people die, some of them disintegrate into particles and give their energy to various bugs and plants and animals. Yes, I did say that, Vladimir. This happens when, during its life on Earth, this energy complex, the human soul, is in disharmony with the surrounding environment to such an extent that it represents a danger to earthly existence. The souls of the deceased preserve that complete complex when the imbalance has not yet reached a critical point. The more harmonious ones are the first to incarnate into earthly bodies. Unfortunately, there are fewer and fewer of them all the time within the universal space, and the program is now choosing the best of a bad lot. But what if all the souls of my family line have disintegrated into particles? Then will none of them come to the family grove I plant? Since you exist, Vladimir, that means your family chain has not been broken either. What happens when a person is buried on the kin's domain? When a person's body is buried on the homestead he himself established, his soul does not fly off into the universal darkness. It remains on the kin's domain. After all, it is there that the person planted trees and communed with the land. The soul, which cannot see or hear anything but can feel, will sense the warmth that the plants give it. And besides that, the people, this person's descendants, will recall him more often as they come into contact with what he created. Anastasia, I know of one instance when the little old mother of some people I know came to their homestead to visit them. She was a little over 80 years old. She'd just come to visit for a few days. She'd come to visit her daughter just to see what in the world she and her husband had cooked up. Then she asked them to let her stay forever. And she stayed. She spent a long time sitting on a little bench. Sometimes she'd walk through the homestead's little forest, and one day she said to her daughter and son-in-law, "When I die, please don't take me off to the cemetery. Bury me here." She pointed out the spot that she herself had picked out. When this elderly woman died, the daughter and the son-in-law carried out her request. What will happen to this elderly woman's soul if she didn't manage to plant anything on this homestead? Her soul will remain on the kin's domain, even if all she did was sit on a little bench. She herself decided that she wanted to be buried there. That means that she was thinking about that before she died, and her relatives will visit the spot where she was laid to rest more often than they would go to a cemetery, and they will think of her more often. You must not bury a person on a family homestead or a kin's domain against his will, even if he has done something there. If that happens, it is essential to ask the person's forgiveness, to go to the spot where he is buried and mentally explain to him why that was done and ask for his help. Yes, Anastasia, it's an interesting situation. But way back when, did people know about this? Did they understand it? Of course they knew, Vladimir. Even in the not-so-distant past, many people had family crypts. You know all about that. But in earlier periods of human existence, cemeteries didn't exist at all. They came into existence when people appeared who had no family land at all. Artisans in cities, domestics, various servants, and soldiers for hire. When they died, they needed to be buried, and so they'd carry their bodies off and toss them without their family members into the latrine pits where they'd throw sick animals, or they'd bury them in common graves. A bit later on, when the cities grew larger and many various families lived in them, including well-to-do ones, then cemeteries began to appear. Well-to-do people would buy up small plots of land where they would bury their deceased relatives, and then other people would do the same nearby. As a result, cemeteries began to be divided up into, to put it in more modern language, into upper class, middle class, and ordinary ones for servants. These kinds of cemeteries still exist today. If you want to get into Vagankovo Cemetery in Moscow, you'll need to bring a lot of money and an effort to bear to get a good plot, and the plots are assigned by a special burial committee.